Evening, everybody. I've just been told that we're live, so yeah, I don't get as much practice with this as other people do. Welcome. It's really good to sort of have the chance to have some kind of interaction with you this evening. Obviously, normally we'd all be in here together. We'd be in the Mem Hall, and afterwards you'd be going out to talking to the heads of department on a one-to-one basis. So what we're trying to do is trying to replicate as best we possibly can, and also have a bit of a chance for some interaction with some question and answers as well. So first of all, it's just as I say, massive welcome. Thank you for joining us this evening. Secondly, it's been a really unusual year, and normally we'd have seen each other a lot, whether it's sort of on the touchline or just around school and so forth, and we'd have had lots of chances for more general chats. So thank you as ever for your support for the school and support for your children as we're sort of living in these strange times. The way we're going to run this evening is that after I sort of said a few words of introduction, Mrs. Mallard is going to talk us through some bits and pieces to do with overall life in sixth form in general, and Mr. Gillies is going to talk us through some information about the process of choosing the subjects and so forth. We're then going to come back to a sort of Q&A. Please do use the chat function to send questions in. They can be either about sixth form life or about A-levels. Some of you may have some questions about sort of life at school at the moment as well, and especially perhaps in terms of GCSEs for the summer. So I suppose to start off with that area, obviously we're all very aware that Wales and Scotland have already announced that their equivalent to GCSEs won't be running this year. Ireland and England at the moment are saying they are going to be running. It was sort of 3 weeks behind where they would normally be. So what we're doing is we're going to sort of keep progressing as though we're moving towards an end of fifth form exam series, exactly the same as we would normally be doing, including the trial examinations. And we think that it's really important to keep going with that momentum as we're going through this year. And at the same time, it leaves us then sort of nimble and able to adjust and to adapt. And obviously, we're keeping a close eye on any developments there. But as I say, I suspect that may come up in Q&A later on as well. So just before I pass over to Mrs. Mallard, once we've finished the Q&A, you've all been sent a link to a YouTube site with lots of videos from each of the subject departments. And likewise, there's 3 from careers, on various aspects on careers, and also the extended project qualification as well. So you're free then to look at those at your leisure this evening and so forth. And a couple of sort of just thoughts from me before passing over to Mrs. Mallard. The first one is sixth form's great, basically. I mean, sixth form is, in my view, the sort of the absolute sort of best couple of years of your life at school. It's where everything starts to come together. You start to see your pathways heading off towards the future. Whatever your game is, you're at the top of it during your time at school. And it's one of those lovely times where so many things in life do seem to fall into place. My second message is that this evening, as it always would be, even if we were here at school, is not the end of the process. So hopefully this evening will be really useful to give you an introduction to sixth form subjects, life at sixth form, a chance to talk. We've deliberately chosen this evening to put the videos up on YouTube rather than go into live breakout rooms with the heads of department. The reason for that is that one of the things that we've always found is that the questions that parents typically want to ask, and pupils, are very direct and often quite personal questions about the suitability of a particular subject for a particular child and so forth. And so what we'd like to offer instead is, rather than sort of live breakouts with the heads of department, but the chance for you to be in contact with them directly so that you can ask much more sort of bespoke and personalised questions. So enough from me, I suspect. I'm going to pass over to Mrs. Mallard now to take us through some information, and we're then going to pass fairly seamlessly straight across to Mr. Gillies about the subject choices. So Ella, over to you.
Right, so sixth form. What is it like to be a sixth form pupil at St. Peter's? Part of our school and very much at the heart of our community here at Peters. Sixth form offers the opportunity for pupils to not only narrow their subject interests and look in depth at their chosen courses, but also for them to embrace new opportunities both in and outside the classroom. They'll meet new challenges and enjoy the new opportunities and freedom that being a member of the sixth form at Peters brings. Sixth form pupils. Ours are offered many opportunities to fuel their intellectual curiosity. They show both the willingness to work as part of the team and the wider St. Peter's community, alongside relishing the opportunity to become more independent. Essentially, as I'm sure you're aware, St. Peter's pupils are enthusiastic. It is their have-a-go attitude and their willingness to take part that defines them, never more so than in the sixth form. The sixth form curriculum has been created to give pupils a wide breadth of learning through both their A-level studies and their co-curricular activities. Intellectual curiosity is what drives sixth form academic study. Pupils work alongside dedicated, enthusiastic staff in order to look in depth at their chosen subjects. Mr. Gillies will talk about this more in depth later. Support in the sixth form. You and we remain especially conscious of this period of transition and development, and pupils are continuing to be supported throughout by their house team, alongside their teaching staff, offering support and guidance. The Higher Education and Careers Department is a dedicated team preparing pupils for careers and university entry, covering all entries in all countries, including Oxbridge and American admissions. Sixth form offers you study periods and specific places for study, such as the library or the Pascal work area, and alongside house spaces for relevant downtime. What else will you be doing? Co-curricular continues and widens even further in your choice of options. There's also a wide range of other activities alongside the co-curricular programme to prepare you for life after Peters. There's societies, there's academic extension, field trips, residential trips, day trips, community action. Diverse sixth form lecture programme with speakers on a wide range of subjects to broaden both your thinking and experiences. There are careers talks and events, including elements such as study skills. We also run a lower sixth exploration week, and there is a St Peter's enrichment programme, STEP, which is an exciting aspect of the sixth form curriculum, preparing pupils for your next steps beyond St Peter's. Pupils cover a variety of subjects here, such as CPSHE, careers, finance, interview skills, diversity and inclusion, and even cookery. Sixth form should be one of the most exciting times of a young person's life, and so we hope beyond everything else that pupils are offered a sense of fun and community that they've already been accustomed to at school, ensuring that they continue to enjoy their time here and with us, and that they leave St Peter's confidently prepared and supported for their next steps beyond.
Lovely. Thank you very much indeed. And I'm now going to pass over to Mr. Gillies, who's going to take us through some more of the logistics of choosing the subjects. Duncan, over to you.
Right. Well, good evening. My little section is, subheading, which is choice and change. One of the great things about A-levels and the English sixth form system is there is an enormous amount of choice and nothing is compulsory. So where pupils now have to sort of work out what you want to be doing in your academic life over the next 2 years. So recently, every pupil in the fifth form will have had or will be about to have a discussion with the members of the careers team to talk about where they see themselves going. It's very much to try and get them to think in the right way rather than to give them particular answers. Many of the pupils will have done the Moresby test, and that will be discussed if they've done that. But this is very much trying to introduce pupils to the idea that it is their choices, but we are here as the careers team, the house parents, myself, the heads of department, and importantly parents, to give advice and have the discussions which will help people think and make the right choices for them. So that has been going on at the moment. When a decision first needs to be made is on Tuesday, the 8th of December. So that's quite soon now. And at that point, we ask all pupils to express a choice regarding which subjects they would like to study next year. Now, most schools arrange their subjects into various option groups, and you have to choose from within them. What we do is we ask all pupils to make a free choice of the 3 or 4 or possibly 5 subjects they want to do, and then we build a timetable each year around that. It's a very difficult task, which I must admit I don't do. Mr. Matkin does that. But what it does do is it means that we can adapt to what individual choices are. Now, in most years, everyone will get their choice, their first choice, but on average, maybe every 2 or 3 years, there is someone or 1 or 2 people whose choices we can't quite make work. And if that is the case, then we'll be talking to you shortly after the trials in early January to see if we can work out ways through that particular challenge. Now, is this choice you're about to make set in stone? Yes and no. Once we've devised once we have your choices and we've devised the timetable, There are then 5 groups, and movement between those groups is possible then. So provided we have enough classes and the size of the classes is appropriate, you can change your mind after that, but we do want you to do as much careful thinking about things at the moment. So in terms of what the choices are, this next slide here shows the basic structure. So 3 A-level courses is the central core of it. Now, nearly all pupils will do a 4th course. For many, that will be a 4th A-level. Some may do an extended project qualification, so 3 A-levels and an EPQ, and some may add further maths to their 3 or their 4 subjects. The brief note on the extended project qualification, there are a couple of times you could start that. You could start that in September with 3 A-levels and an EPQ. Or you could start with 4 A-levels, then make your choice to do an EPQ in January after Christmas. So there's a couple of different ways of looking at that. So that's the overall. Now, as I said, most people will do 4 courses, so either 4 A-levels or 3 and an EPQ. Some will do 5, but we are very cautious about allowing people to do more courses than the standard 4 unless they can do them to a high standard. Moving on, it is much better to get good 3 or 4 good quality courses rather than have extra courses which you might do less well at. So quality rather than quantity is the key idea. Okay, so what are the choices? On this slide here, we have the range of subjects, many of which are studied at GCSE, but many of which are also new to the 6th form. So things such as politics, art history, business, economics, examples of, and PE are examples of subjects which are new in the 6th form. The subjects in green can be studied even if you have not studied them at GCSE. While history, for example, and geography are both GCSE subjects, if it's a subject that you had grown in interest or you felt disappointed that you stopped it moving into the GCSE courses, you can still take up those subjects in the 6th form. Now, to get a sense of what these subjects are all about, what the essence of them is at 6th form, and I would really stress that all subjects are different in various ways as you move from GCSE to 6th form. We've put together a number of short videos. They range from about 4 minutes to about 10 minutes each on each of the A-level subjects. They've been put together in the last couple of weeks by the heads of department, and you should have received an email with a link to that today from me. If you haven't got that, do let me know and I shall forward that to you. So do take the time to look at that, but also once you've seen that, pupils should and parents should make contact with teachers, either the subject specialist teachers or their housemaster or myself or Mrs. Mallard to talk through these things. Sometimes it's really useful just to say, look, this is my thinking, what do you think? And just that discussion can help the confidence of the choice which gets made. Okay, so how do you make your choice? Well, it's pretty similar, or the principles are pretty similar to those which I will have advised you about a couple of years ago when choosing the GCSEs. Enjoyment, ability, and need. Now, the first 2 are the most important ones. Choose a subject you think you're going to enjoy. That'll probably be the subject you're going to do best at. Remember that you're doing 3 or 4 subjects, so you're going to spend a lot of time doing each of them. GCSEs 10, your time is really spread out quite thinly. It's a huge challenge, GCSEs, but A-levels, you get to choose, and you need to choose the things you're likely to enjoy. Ability should naturally follow from that, and as a very much a third, you should be thinking about need. And there are some courses which are necessary for certain courses at university. For example, chemistry is going to be needed for most of the life sciences, such as vet, medicine, and so forth, and dentistry. There are other courses such as psychology, which will typically require you to have done a science Sometimes a psychology course will require you to have done mathematics. Similarly, some economics courses require mathematics, some don't. Don't make the assumption that on your own judgment what is required. Do sort of look through those things. Now, if it turns out that the need you have to do a subject doesn't meet enjoyment or ability, then what you should do is, again, have those conversations and see if we can work ways through this. Because ultimately, what you want to do is enjoy your studies at the sixth form and do well at them. And then that will lead you to your next stages. Where do we go from now? Well, in one sense, it's a really simple choice. You've got a smorgasbord of subjects to choose from. You need to get to know the subjects you're looking at. I would also encourage you strongly to have a look at some of those subjects you really never thought you were going to have a look at, just so you can say, I now know why I'm not doing that. It's a really helpful thing. And who knows, it may change your mind in favour of it as well. So where we go from now is you need to make your choices, but have discussions as well. So choose what you enjoy. This should be what you are good at, and this also should match your university courses. Discussion is really important in all of this. Do come and talk to us, and we can help you go through the process of thinking. We're not going to tell you this is what you should do, but we are going to try and help you use the right sort of criteria to come to your decision. Now, another dimension which I think is really important to refer to at this point, because it is something you can start doing at your age now, is, oops, sorry, that's just gone one thing too far, is work experience as you move on into applying for employment or into many university courses. Work experience will stand you in good stead in one form or another. In some courses, it's absolutely essential to get to have had work experience. In all situations, it is really good to have shown that you have engaged positively and curiously with the adult world of work. So alongside of your set of A-levels, the wider activities and experiences you gain at school over the next 2 years, you should also develop some work experience, and the Careers and Higher Education Department is there to help and advise you on what you might want to do, and also, importantly, how to get involved with that. So that's all from me at the moment, and I think we are probably going to go to the questions. I'll hand over to the headmaster.
Great. Ella, Duncan, thank you very much indeed. Thank you very much. We've had some questions that have come in already. So there's one, I think, which has gone to everybody anyway. So you'll have seen this one. It's the how many sixth form places are available. So as we move into sixth form from fifth form, in the same way that when we move from sort of J5 at 8:13 at Olives up into third form, the year group expands a bit. So typically we sort of we take the year group that there is, and we'll expand it by about 10 to 15 pupils as we come through there. I hope that answers the question as it was asked. If not, please do just sort of engage back in on the chat function. And then we've got a question there, which is A-level philosophy offered, or is religious studies the closest? I think I'll pass over to Mr. Gillies for that one.
The broad answer is yes. The A-level philosophy equivalent course full title is the philosophy of religion, I think, is the current terminology for it, and it contains about half of it's pure philosophy, and about half of it is philosophy and ethics as religions view it. So that is the course to choose if you want to do philosophy.
Yeah, and as an ex-RS teacher, I'm not going to do a shameless plug for this, otherwise Mr. Bembridge will just have a go at me later on. But so basically, although it's philosophy of religion, as you go through the subject, you actually encounter pretty much most of the sort of the history of Western philosophy as you go through the course. All the sort of big hitters, the David Hume, Immanuel Kant and so forth, are all appearing there. So it is a fantastic course in philosophy as well. We have a question which I'd like to pass over to Miss Mallard. It's to do with the balance between the academic side of life and the co-curricular. So obviously, as we sort of move into sixth form, a big focus, and people are conscious, of course, that they've chosen the 3 subjects or 4 subjects they really love. they're choosing the university courses or other pathways as a consequence of it. So from your perspective, how do you keep the right balance between the academic side of life and all the other things that we love to do here at school?
We still encourage all the other things that you love to do here at school, and so you are offered obviously your co-curricular programme. You obviously have Mr. Gwilliam to assist with that, but you have your house parents and your tutors to help make sure that you do still manage the balance. But the idea is also that you are still doing co-curricular, whether that's outside playing rugby, playing hockey, netball, or you're doing something like the drama or the plays. So we work with you to make sure that you've got a balance. I think it's really important that sixth form have a balance and that you are not only studying your A-levels, but that you're also taking part in the wide co-curricular programme that we do offer.
Lovely, thank you very much. And we've got a question also here, so I think it's sort of probably best to go across to Mr. Gillies as well. It's to do with trials and mock examinations, and in fact something that Mr. Gillies and I were talking about last week. The question really is around the role that trials have always had in terms of at this point in the fifth form moving towards GCSEs, and any sort of particular reflections or thoughts about whether that's different this year because of the situation that we're in.
Yeah, so the main purpose of trials in all years, and a key part of what we do this year, is to give pupils a practice at something which is close to the real thing. Some courses will be very, very close to completion. Some there'll be still more topics to study there. So the experience of coming in, getting into the timing, that's a really important thing in exams. So what ends up happening is you do at least part of a real GCSE. Now that is happening about 5 months before you do the real GCSE. So it does give you a sense, okay, if I'm here, let's see where I can get to as we move forward. Now, in terms of where how it may be used this year, we are preparing pupils on the assumption, as the headmaster said earlier, that we've got the trials as a key practice, and we're assuming that there are going to be normal exams in the summer. That said, it may be that things change, and as last year, things did change dramatically very late in the day, and we were able to use the trials as good evidence for our understanding of how pupils would be likely to perform. That said, it is by no means the only thing, because as I've just mentioned, there's 5 months or so between when you do your trials and when you would normally do your final exam. So it may become something which is important, but it certainly won't be the only thing. My real advice to pupils preparing for these sorts of trials is to listen to what your teachers say about which bits are going to be examined. It is a practice, it's a learning experience. If everyone did wonderfully in the trials, then we wouldn't really have done our job properly. It's about learning how to get things, right. And alongside of that is that you would have had probably the hardest term that anyone of your age has ever had. 12 weeks of very strange circumstances. We say every year, and I'll say it again this year now and then later on, you do need a break at Christmas. You do need to do some work as well. So you need both of those things. Thinking that you can or even want to work 3 weeks is really not good for you. So probably slightly going around in circles. They are important because they're really good practice. They help you consolidate things. But we do need to put all these things into perspective, and we need to play the world as it is being presented to us right now. It may change, and we have confidence in you and your ability to adapt, and we have confidence in our own records and knowledge of how you would do in the long run if other things do come up. So we're all working together, pupils, parents, teachers, and I'm sure it'll all work in the end. We just don't quite know how.
Thanks, Duncan. I think it's just picking up on that and going back to the old cricketing metaphor. If you play what's in front of you, not the balls you think are coming down next or over, or the bowls at the board last over. It's true, and we came through very well last year through this entire process, well, more than very well actually. And I think one of the difficulties is that we say that, and it's absolutely correct. It's all going to be fine. It's all going to work out just fine. At the same time, we're very conscious of the fact that for especially the pupils in particular, but also the teachers, that sort of depth of uncertainty and and it's natural. The brain just whirls around trying to second guess and trying to sort of think about how things might go. I think everybody had an email from Mr. Gillies a little while ago now, so 2-3 weeks ago, with a quick summary of some of the changes to some of the trimming back that's happened with some of the various GCSE examinations and the course content and so forth. So we've obviously sort of, moved the boat around and adapted towards that as well. We'll obviously continue to do that for any other changes that come through. We've taken an opportunity with languages, for example, to move exam boards to get what we think is going to give a much better outcome and a much better, outcome in terms of results, but also just experience. I think it's really important we don't lose sight as we go through this year of the core duty that we have is, yes, we want them to get tremendously brilliant exam results, but we also want them to have a fantastic education as well. And the two don't always necessarily mean the same thing. So trying to keep a balance on that one. You'll have seen in the papers, I'm sure there's been some stuff recently. Will the exam board set some assessed work to be done in school under sort of classroom supervision? Well, we'll wait and see whether that does come through or not. Going back to last year, having just sort of said, don't play the balls bold last over, but one of the things when we were asked to do the centre assessed grades is we were able to build on years of experience, because after the trials have taken place around February half term, for years we've always asked the departments to say, bearing in mind everything, absolutely everything you know about the pupil, what grade do you think they should be getting come the summer? And I think what Mr. Gillies is trying to sketch out there is that we're sort of going for a steady state approach to life this year, so that whatever the balances are, if we are asked that question again, we'll be best placed to do the best that we can for the pupils as we go through. There's some more good questions coming through here. I think it's a quick one, Duncan. Is A-level English offered? If I can pass to you.
A-level English language we don't do, A-level English literature we do, and getting a grip of exactly what English literature is, do talk to your English teacher, and they can explain to you which bits of your course are like literature and which are not.
If only we had an English teacher in the room. Mrs. Mallard.
I do talk about it in my presentation, which you are very welcome to watch. So the English literature presentation does talk about it. We don't offer it because it's very different at A-level than it is at GCSE, and that's the reason why I don't offer it.
And setting up as the other part of the question, I suppose, the development of English language skills through essay writing and research and synthesis and so forth. Okay, thank you. I'm going to ping another one back to Mr. Gillies. Does the Career Department help with work experience?
Yes, so what the Careers Department can help you with is identifying an organisation, a contact, which you can apply to. They'll help you with applying and writing the letter and making the contact, and just take this opportunity to say, if parents are in their roles in work, are happy to have St Peter's pupils as work experience guests, please do let the Careers Department know, because building that, we continue to sort of refresh our network, and one of the great sources of it is, of course, the parents themselves.
Okay, thank you. The question there, and thank you for this one, about would we consider delaying trials so they're closer to the actual GCSEs? No is the quick answer, but I think to give a much better answer, I think it's about trying to keep the shape and the momentum of the shape of the fifth form as we go through, so that we've got the flexibility. I wonder if the sort of question behind the question is to do with getting best possible insight and information into how the pupils are doing and how they're going. I am fond of that old phrase, which is, if you want to know how well your carrots are growing, don't pull them out of the ground every 5 minutes to have a look. I think one of the benefits of doing trials straight after the Christmas holidays, I completely agree with Mr. Gillies, it does provide a balance of, there is a chance to take a break, a breather, to refresh and recuperate, and also to start to prepare. If you're revising in the Christmas holidays towards trials immediately afterwards, later on in the exam season in the year, you're building on, you're reinforcing. So it does actually form part of that. I think we're comfortable not delaying the trials until later, trying to do mock exams or trial exams in the middle of the hurly-burly of term with very little time to prepare for them. I think is really quite challenging. Because this year in particular, it's so impossible to tell what's going on. I think we'd be very concerned if we said, well, let's do them the week after half term in February, for example, and then all of a sudden something's changed and we've missed the chance to run an exam season. So I suppose the wider answer there is mocks and trials are really important. They form one element measurement of our understanding of the children's progress. That then helps to inform what happens for all the weeks afterwards and keeping it in touch as they progress and go forward. So I hope that gives something of a fuller answer. As ever with all these things, if there's follow-up questions to the answers that we're giving, please just get in touch. We're always more than happy to engage. I'm going to, is there a change in the date of leave for study? So study leave, yes. I mean, logically, study leave will also move backwards as well. And I'll just be totally honest with you there, Mr. Wood, we haven't had a chance to refine exactly what date study leave will begin. But yes, I think we'll certainly be bunching our sort of preparation season and study leave season, and it will always be relative to the start of the GCSE exam. So thank you for that question, that's really helpful. I'm going to pass another one to Mr. Glees, and I've got a couple for Mrs. Mallard coming through. This question is the one I think you can all see it. It's what are the main differences between economics and business A-levels? Much overlap. Is it worth doing this A-level and wanting to do economics at university, or do you find that the first year at uni is duplicated? So over to you.
Okay, so business is very much about the way organisations work within the economy, and economics is about the national and international economy itself. There is exactly that question is addressed in the presentations which Mr. White has put together. He will be much better at explaining it than I would be. So there is a distinction. It's important to understand it. Some pupils do one, not the other. A small number of pupils will do both. There's no strong reason to say you should do both, one or either. Moving on to the sort of supplementary question about that is in terms of doing A-level at economics at university. First thing is, you're right, I think one of the things behind that is you do not have to have done business or economics at school to do it at university. I think that the nature of moving into a course at university is, yes, there's some overlap, but the approach is different. So it's certainly not the case that people have done economics here and go off to economics, sit there twiddling their thumbs for the first 2 terms. So again, going back to do what you enjoy. If economics really excites you, do that. If business really excites you, do that. If you're really interested in both of them, then doing both of them is absolutely fine.
Okay. Thank you very much. And there's I'll pass to Ella for some, the extended project qualifications, a bit more information, please.
Okay, there is a presentation by Mr. Bateson on the YouTube. So if you have a look at that, he does talk about the extended project qualification in more detail, but in a nutshell, it's an independent research project that you will take on. So you are guided by tutors throughout the first stages of it. It's done within a year, so you can opt to do it in the lower 6. Where you will have to do research of your own, and you go off and you work alongside Mrs. Wong in the library who assists you with this, and it's a project that you are interested in. There are various forms that you can do, so in terms of practical ones up to obviously the written extended project qualification. So there are various forms, and Mr. Bateson will take you through that in the presentation.
Yeah, and it's become increasingly sort of prized by universities in particular, but by other pathways as well. In essence, it looks, sounds and feels like undergraduate style work in the sense of you've got to be independent about it. One of the great things about it is it gives you control, because although you've got tremendous choice at A-levels and also tremendous choice in the sixth form programme in general, EPQ is one example where you get to completely drive the whole thing. So you take on a subject area that you're interested in, and then you define a research question that you really want to look into and find out more about. And crucially, it cannot be on the A-level syllabus. So it's got to be something completely different. And you find that you get people who want to go off and do medicine, for example, so they'll do something into there, or they want to go off and do history and they want to progress there. The other really great thing about it is that you can do it in a variety of ways. So you can do it as a thesis, a mini thesis approach to doing things. You can also do it as a performance piece, whether it can be a piece of artwork, for example, or a piece of other type of performance, or it can be a more scientific field study. So it's got this most tremendous amount of flexibility for you to really take on and shape your idea. One thing that might be mentioned earlier on is that we've often sort of advised pupils to start it in the January of the lower 6th. So use that first term, bed into sixth form life, do your 4 A-level subjects to help you really then trim down to what 3 you think you really want to carry on forwards to the rest of the 2 courses. And then when you've had that chance to adapt into sixth form study and sixth form working, in January, pick up the EPQ and push it forwards from there. It's normally completed by about the November sitting of the upper sixth. You can sort of bookend it inside the sixth form experience as well. So it's a, yeah, sorry, unashamedly, I'm a big fan of it, in case you haven't spotted. I'm going to pass over, so Mr. Gillies obviously happens to reside in one of the boarding houses. So it's a question about study leave in general, but also how does it work with boarders?
Okay, so study leave, when study leave starts, that is the end of formal lessons for pupils in that particular year group. Now, the teachers remain available. Some of them will put on sessions at times which are convenient to the pupils. So teachers are there to help you as it moves on, but it gives you the time and chance to direct your own study around that. Now, in terms of boarders, boarders can go home if they wish. Most of them stay in for the duration of study leave. The nature of the timetable of exams is that you may have 2 or 3 exams in 3 days, and then you might have another 10 days before your next exam. And exactly how you, whether you're a boarder or a day pupil, want to manage that, that's very much up to you. We do strongly encourage people to plan it, and sometimes, you know, we do have sort of discussions with parents and people to work out what the best way to do things is. Sometimes the best thing is to come into school and use the facilities to prepare for exams there. For others, the best thing is they just go and manage their own time at home, and then come in, you know, maybe every couple of days, touch base with one of the teachers, and you know, to bring questions and problems to them. So study leave is essentially marks the end of formal lessons and the beginning of time for you to prepare for exams. But importantly, the teachers and the school is here to help you throughout that.
Yeah, and just to reinforce on that one, so study leave does not mark the end of contact with school or contact with teachers. In fact, in some ways it becomes quite a lovely sort of flexible approach to that one, in terms of becoming more bespoke, because obviously in the classroom the teacher will always be adapting to the needs of all the children, but they have got the whole class there, and as you go into study leave, it's that much more opportunity to really touch back in on particular areas of questions. We've got a question about 4 levels instead of 3, which I'll pass to Ms. Gillies in a moment. I'd just like to, there's another question that's come through, and it's to do with STEP. So there's a reference to STEP, the enrichment programme, in Mrs. Mallard's presentation. So Ella, could you just give us a bit more information about that?
Yep, it's a course that lower sixth take up in the January. So again, they bed in for a term, and they take up a course which is 1 double period a week, where they study a variety of things. The idea is it's about preparing them for their next steps. So it can be practical skills that prepare them for their next steps, or PSHE skills. So we do sex education, we look at finance, we look at diversity and inclusion. So they do a variety of things, often with 1 member of staff in those periods throughout the element of the lower sixth and then into the upper sixth, where we look more closely at finance and at CVs. In the summer term for STEP, we look at your UCAS form. So we introduce you to Unifrog and how to use Unifrog, and how to then think about where you're going to apply to in terms of getting you ready, especially over the summer holidays if you're applying for Oxbridge, to have you prepared and ready for when you come back.
Okay, lovely, thank you. Cooking?
Cooking is there, yes, sorry.
6 bomb-proof recipes for university, a spag bowl from 5 ingredients, all that sort of thing as well. So, Duncan, I'm going to pass over to you. So it's the question about 4 A-levels and 3 A-levels.
Yeah, so 4 A-levels is what most pupils will start with, but 3 A-levels is what most people will finish with. So nearly everyone will do 3 A-levels into the upper sixth. So the issue is, you know, what is the benefit of it? Now, a couple of things. The most important one is it gives you another option of choice. Many pupils, more than half of the pupils, will be starting at least 1 subject which is brand new to them, and they often thrive on that, but only when you start to actually really get to grips with it do you really know whether, you know, this subject is for you. Equally, as I said earlier, the A-level subjects do change their character as they move from GCSE to A-level. So the GCSE subjects do change their character as they move from GCSE to A-level. So the particular advantage is it gives you a bit more choice, it gives you some breadth, as a sort of evidence of the way people, do change their minds about it. When we used to we expect everyone to do 4 A-levels, 4 A-levels all the way through the lower sixth. We'd ask them at the beginning of January, which one do you think you're likely to drop? And more than half of them would change their mind by the time they got to the end of the lower sixth. So as subjects evolve, as you get to really know what the challenges, what the enjoyment, what the benefits of each subject is, your feeling around which one is the right one for you will develop. So there are quite a few people who do 3, but they will tend to do 3 plus an EPQ. The downside of that is once you've started those 3, that's the ones you need to move all the way through. So again, it's part of discussions with Housemasters, with myself, with Mrs. Mallard, as to work out what is the best way to do that. But I think it broadens your horizons, but it also does preserve an element of choice, and choice which you can make based on actual real experience. The choices you're making now are not based on knowing what doing A-level economics or A-level maths or A-level art really are. Whereas by doing 4, it does give you that extra element of choice, and it does broaden you, and it can be really useful when you're trying to talk about something at an interview, having done a term or 2 terms or 3 terms of another subject. Bring that into your discussion, whether it's in an application to university or just broadening yourself more generally.
Thank you. And again, that logic as to why we often promote do four A-levels in the first term, and then sort of drop 1 and then start the EPQ at the start in January. And of course, I think Mr. Gillies may have mentioned this, but there are some courses where further mathematics, for example, can be a distinct advantage alongside mathematics for some of the very competitive courses in some areas. Well, whilst we're on that point, it's worth just touching on changing subjects in general, because I mean, people start with 4, but sometimes after just a few weeks, they've got a sense that maybe one of them is one that they want to swap. And obviously, when we used to have, it feels a long time ago now actually, but when there used to be ASs and A2s, so the sort of year 1, year 2 approach to doing things, you had to make changes really quite quickly at the start of the lower sixth, which I was never too happy about, because I didn't feel people had enough chance to try something properly. Can you just give a bit of insight into when's the latest you can change a subject in the lower sixth?
Well, the latest, which is manageable, is going to be about the half term. Now, I wouldn't recommend you sort of wait till then and then say, oh yeah, I think I'll change a couple of subjects. But what I would say is that because you've got a full 2-year course, there is much more time to catch up. There is also, so that the important thing is you end up going into the upper sixth and sitting down to do your final A-levels, doing the right subjects for you. And it is a lot better to have a little bit of a hard time over the November half term, doing a bit of catch up in a subject which you've changed to, rather than sitting out the wrong subject. So come and have conversations with us about it, and it's certainly something which people can do quite manageably up till half term. And it's about getting the right thing, and that's the most important thing.
And there's a question I can see as well, which is a perfectly understandable one, about whether 4 A-levels is more appealing to universities. I think this is such an individual question in terms of individual pupils, because for some pupils they can absolutely, I mean, 4, 5. Some years ago I had a pupil who did 6 A-levels, for example, and they were genuinely a complete polymath and were able to perform at a high level across all of them. For definitely, it's going to send a calling card to university. If you're capable of getting sort of 4 A-levels, 3 at A-star and 1 at A, for example, that definitely sends a very strong message about yourself academically. But even at the very competitive end of things, they typically make offers which are based upon 3 A-level grades. And if they ask for A-star AA or 2 A-stars and an A, and somebody gets 4 A grades because they've spread themselves, then very typically the very competitive universities will not take them on that basis that they didn't get the grades that they asked for. So it's a very individual question, definitely one to engage with us, I think, sort of perhaps on a more one-to-one basis as to what exactly is the right balance. I think one of our guiding principles is it's always really important to have a sort of an overarching structure saying this is what we know works. as a general principle. And then inside of that, to be talking to individual pupils and looking at them and creating a more of a bespoke approach inside it. Another thing that sort of strikes me, it's really important that we're talking about A-levels and grades and so forth, and that's obviously a massively important part. We mustn't lose sight, of course, the fact that, exam results get you interviews, person who walks through the door that gets the job, the breadth of experience, the breadth of opportunities. It is entirely feasible to have a really great programme, and Peters has been doing this for donkey's years, a really great academic programme that leads to very, very strong academic success alongside that much wider, more vibrant, richer sixth form experience as well. You can actually have the best of both. Sometimes it comes down to conversations, typically through house staff, around how's the balance going. Can't keep all the hobs on the, all the hobs are light on top of the stove at the same time. What do we need to balance and so forth? But it is entirely possible to get the breadth. There's a question, it's coming out to sort of 10 to 7, so I think we'll give it a few more minutes. But there's a question here which is how many hours per week does each subject have for lessons?
Okay, for lessons, it is 5 hours and 20 minutes, I think, which is made up of 8 40-minute lessons, so 320 minutes. Really importantly, however, is the idea that you need to spend about that amount of time outside doing work, your own reading, your own practice of problems and so forth. So that's the sort of general equation which we work on is 8 40-minute lessons, which is twice as much as you get for your option subjects now, is the taught face-to-face time, and that equivalent outside in study periods and at home.
And then so obviously space inside the timetable as well for private studying and wider reading and so forth. And again, going back to the breadth and the balance thing, it is entirely possible. I know we are very busy Monday through to Saturday, but it is entirely possible for a pupil to get their academic work done inside the 6-day window, with occasionally having to do some stuff on Sundays. So still trying to keep that sort of a little bit of a break and a balance going through. I think we've answered every question which has come through on the chat. So thank you very much for that. I suppose just a couple of sort of concluding thoughts from us. First of all, just to reiterate how I was really glad when we got the new government guidelines through about the lockdown procedures, that it didn't change anything for us in terms of our balance between the academic and the co-curriculum, what was going on. I had a really lovely walk around the entire school on Saturday afternoon and just seeing so many different activities taking place, and that's, I think, seeing your boys and girls I'm talking to, and obviously parents as well, seeing people actually out there, so really having a good time and getting that breadth and that balance as well. So first of all, I was really glad that that's what we've been able to do in lockdown. In terms of forward planning and forward thinking, a lot of it is at any one time we model a number of different scenarios, so that whatever sort of flexes and changes coming from government or whatever's sort of needed of us and required from us, we've already got quite a lot of pre-thinking in place, so that hopefully we're able to be quite sort of nimble and quite quick, and also hopefully sort of doing it the best we can, or a reasonable job of keeping in touch with all of you at home and getting our communication right and timely to keep you involved and informed. But please do, in the same way that we're trying to keep in touch with you, please do keep in touch with us. I bumped into a few parents in the last couple of weeks, out walking the dog, as it were. And one of the conversations has always been around, it is such a pity that we haven't got these easy sort of opportunities to catch up with each other and to talk just as we see each other. So thank you as we sort of come to an end of this session. Thanks for all the questions. It's really helpful for us. I think it does enable it to be a lot more interactive rather than just, transmit and receive. So thank you hugely for the questions. I hope the answers have been helpful. If you have questions which haven't been asked or you'd like answered, or indeed answers you've had which you'd like to hear a bit more about, please do keep us in touch with that. And then beyond that, I hope you find the videos useful and interesting. And just a reminder, please do then pick up very much of personal contact, either with heads of department, house parents, or any of us in terms of further questions that you have. So normally, of course, we sort of go off and find a bottle of Fentimans and some crisps in the monkey cage. If there's any consolation, that's not here for us either this evening. But thank you very much indeed for joining. Thanks also to Mrs. Opie and to Barry, who you can't see out of shot, who've actually made us look like we halfway know what we're doing as well. So thanks so much, everybody. I hope it's been useful, and do stay in touch. All the very best.
Good night.